session has three important aspects, that is of Indian relationships with European countries, United States and Australia. We have the representation of Australia in terms of Dr. Abhijit Date, who is a senior professor at School of Engineering, RMIT University, Melbourne, Australia, and he being the guest of honor of today's session, I request him to kindly say a few words. Please welcome with a big round of applause Dr. Abhijit Date from RMIT, Melbourne, Australia.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much to MIT, to Sri Rahul Karad and all the teachers who are present here. The topic which I have been given to present is about Indo-Australia vision for 2030. And that's too far in the future, definitely. But first of all, what we need to look at is what is globalization. What I believe globalization, in simple words, is being connected. Connected 24/7, 365 days. Everyone knows everything is connected these days. Now, keeping that in mind, having the knowledge is not enough anymore. Having skills is not enough anymore. Traditionally, people were considered educated when they finished undergraduate degree or a master's, they have knowledge, and they would do the routine work. These days, routine work is nothing. It's well below average. And routine work is getting replaced day in, day out by machines. Everyone would have already realized how machines are taking over everything. And that's the future. We have to accept that. Now, so what else do we need? If you have knowledge, if you have skills, what is missing in this particular link? Innovation, that's what is missing. In Australia, where I come from, what we try to tell students is knowledge, yes, it's very important. Having skills is very important. But if you're not creative, if you can't make connection between knowledge and skills and the future needs of human being and make some product out of it, make something creative out of it, it's useless. As an employer, if I wanted to hire someone, I would not employ anyone who just has knowledge or skills. What I would look for is someone who is creative, someone who is very hungry. The mind is very hungry, is always striving to connect all these dots together. So knowledge, skills, and so on. So saying that, what I would like to do is give you some background of Australia. If we want to be globalized, if Indian universities want to be globalized, what we need to know is we need to know the economics or the structure of any other nation. So Australian economy is highly developed, like US and many other economies in Europe. Australian economy has a GDP of around 1.7 trillion. It's a small as compared to India, but is the second richest economy if you look at the GDP per adult, just after Switzerland. So it's one of the richest economies per adult GDP. If you keep that in mind and look at the exports of Australia, the major export of Australia is ore, mining. And within the mining, the major two exports are iron ore and coal. And there's a lot of exports to India in that sense as well. But then the fourth highest export of Australia is education. It's about 7% of the total exports. It's very large exports in terms of, and it has got a very big footprint. So why can't India start exporting education? This is a question to you all to think about after this nice teacher World Congress. Now, to give you an idea of how many international students we get, RMIT, where I come from, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology University, it's a very young university. It's less than 50 years old, and in QS ranking, which is the QS world ranking, the young under 50 years old university is ranked 18. And it's gone very fast, it's grown very fast to very high ranks. In the last 10 to 15 years, it's gone from 150 to about 18. So what's the main reason behind that? The main reason behind that is innovation, really. I'll give you some examples of that. But before that, I will give you an idea of how many students we have got. RMIT has got about 60,000 students, and out of 60,000 students, 27,000 students are international students. So that's about 45 to 46% of our students are international. Out of which I would say about 10 to 15% would come from India. If I'm not, I don't have the exact numbers, but there will be a large number of students coming from India to Australia. And there's a big chunk of students coming from Middle East and Southeast Asia to Australia for education. Which are Southeast Asia and Middle East is closer to India than Australia. So this is another thing what you should think about. Why can't you attract those students to India? And how can we attract them? Now, what we have got student and staff collaboration, exchange with many universities. At present, RMIT has student exchange and staff exchange program with ICT, which is the Indian Institute of Chemical Technology in Hyderabad, which is one of the central institutes in India. We also have exchange program with University of Pune. There were a couple of postgraduate students, PhD students who visited RMIT and stayed there for a month or so. The funding comes from different ways. Now, there are some joint degree programs, not with Indian universities at present, with Hong Kong, University in Hong Kong, University in Singapore, University in China and Germany. We have got many joint programs. The only joint program which we have very recently started is a PhD program with ICT in Hyderabad, where that joint program, a PhD student gets enrolled in RMIT and would spend half of the duration in India and half of the duration in RMIT in Melbourne. And the student will get scholarship. There is an application procedure, and that can be easily found on RMIT website. Now, there are short-term sabbatical opportunities as well with RMIT and with any other universities, many other universities, top universities in Australia. And as few other speakers said before, you just need to contact appropriate department and then you start communicating. I can be a very good contact to start with. I'm more than happy to communicate with engineering faculty. Now, if you look at the Australian industry dynamics, Australian industry is mainly dominated by mining and then followed by education or service sector. It's almost 61% of the total GDP is controlled by these two sectors. And service sectors includes education, includes design, includes hospitality, and so on. But the biggest problem in Australia at present is the wages are highest in the world. Australian wages are one of the highest wages in the world. Higher than UK, higher than New Zealand, higher than France, higher than US, higher than Germany. Top countries. And that's why manufacturing is getting outsourced. There's a lot of manufacturing moving out from Australia. There have been some which have been moved to India. But the design part is moving back to Australia because highly paid jobs are design jobs. So keep that in mind. How can Indian and Australian universities can collaborate together? So design can be outsourced to Australia, manufacturing to India, and so on. As mentioned by Professor Gore, it's very important to have multicultural environment. And as mentioned by Professor Banda, it's very important to have interdisciplinary connections. So what we do in RMIT, the point which I had left earlier of how we have moved from below 100 status to within top 20 of young universities which are less than 50 years old. We encourage a lot of interdisciplinary projects, and the main medium for that is the final year projects. So each and every degree, no matter which field you're from, you would have final year projects. And that is the best opportunity for students to start collaborating and interconnecting with each other. And that gives them an opportunity to show their creativity and innovation. So the key points to take from my speech, I would say, is knowledge and skills are important, but innovation is most important for future and for globalization. And how can that innovation or innovative minds be developed? By having multidisciplinary projects, multidisciplinary, giving opportunities, and so on. And I will end my speech with these words. I thank again MIT and Sri Rahul Karad for giving me this opportunity and for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abhijit Date.